Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Himes here with, my partner in crime when it comes to these interview episodes, Bob Stewart. Bob, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, Chad. You know what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get one of these TM5 hats that I've heard all about. I'm trying to get one of these to add to my collection. So maybe when we're done with Mr. TM, he will send me one of these hats.
All right, and everybody's sitting out there going, what are you talking about, Bob? Because they don't know who we're talking to yet today. But of course, when it comes to anything in a hat, Bob's got to make sure he's got one. So, Terrence, we're going to be bringing you on here. We're going to be hearing from you. But I think there's going to have to be a hat in the mail from you because otherwise Bob might make sure we never put this one on air. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, Terrence Murphy. Terrence, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Man, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be on the show and just been keeping up with what you guys are doing and what Ben is doing, and I'm inspired by everything, man. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate that. And from doing a little research on you when I was introduced to you, I think I'm a little inspired. So I hope our audience gets a little inspired today from this conversation as well. Terrence, I don't like to introduce our guests because I don't want to limit you. I like to have you introduce yourself to our audience. So tell them who you are, tell them all that, whatever it is you want to make clear in your introduction. Welcome, Terrence. Take it away.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Terrence Murphy Sr. I got to do a better job of saying that. I have a junior. He's just turned 5 this weekend. So there's another Terrence Murphy, running around this town, which good luck to College Station. But yeah, man, just born and raised here in East Texas, single mom, grew up. I was an entrepreneur, and at a young age, I had 3 businesses when I was like 11 years old. Video game business, trading card, and comic book business, and a lawnmower business. And I always like telling that story because I wasn't just mowing like neighborhood properties. My mom would take me to the city and drop me off. And I had doctor offices, dentist offices, things like that. But yeah, man, born and raised there, went to Texas A&M, football scholarship, graduated in 3.5 years, got drafted by the Packers, played, Aaron Rodgers was the first pick in the draft. I was the second pick. So we were roommates. Now he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I guess he just won NFL MVP last year, so I'm proud of my boy. I had a neck injury, which we'll probably dive into a little bit today. Transitioned from that, became a real estate entrepreneur, and really dove into investing and selling real estate. And we have 20 companies now that my wife and I own and lead. And our main one is TM5, and it's a startup real estate brokerage. And we just hit $1 billion in sales in 8.5 years in a college town. So,
dang.
Wow.
All right. So, Terrence, I got some questions. I always prepare for these, as we were talking before, right? I prepare for these things a little bit with some questions. And then Bob comes out of like left field. So just be ready for one of Bob's questions. We have no idea what he's up to over there, but he'll come up with something. But hey, let's talk football, right? You brought it up. Texas A&M. You're in that's a college to go to. I don't want to say up and coming. I guess even they're not big. One of the ultimate schools, but Texas A&M's definitely put an imprint out there. And then Green Bay. Come on, right? Forget all this other stuff. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm actually a Cowboys hater, but Green Bay is America's team. Truly the heart of America, owned by their people. Let's talk football. So going all the way back even before that, you were a quarterback in high school.
Yeah, quarterback in high school.
Then you became a wide receiver and a kick returner as you moved into college and moved into the pros and all of that stuff. So talk about the mindset and lessons that come from that, because, the quarterback's, he's the captain, whether he's the captain or not, he's the captain on the field of what's going on. Wide receiver, you have to learn to, give up some of that control. You have to learn to do your job and be there when. Talk about the mindset and some of the lessons that just came from such a massive shift for a football player.
Yeah, I got 3 points I'll hit. The first one is I was really an introverted kid. I didn't do a lot of talking. Even in our neighborhood, I didn't do any mouthing, right? Like it just went straight to hands were flying, right? That was just the way I handled stuff. And one of the things that I've learned, like as my coaches would push me, hey, you're the quarterback. You got to communicate. You got to get out front. Well, if something's happening that we're all emotional about, it made me at a very early age learn that I have to put my emotions aside and I got to step to the front of the room and I got to take control of what's happening right now. And man, you don't want to do it, but as you grow as a leader, you learn to do it. And that just learning how to shift my mindset to naturally what I want to do is opposite of what I should do. man, that just helps me so much. And then it's really played dividends as an entrepreneur, in the business where something may happen and everybody's expecting you to react this way. But as the leader, you got to get the whole room and the whole team going back in the right direction, right? You may lose a person on your team. You may have to fire somebody. A deal may go awry, and you got to step to the front of the room and say things and be confident when you're saying them. So that really helped me. And then the other thing I would say is the quarterback position has to know what everybody on the field is doing. Mm-hmm. Not only on offense, right? I got to know what my offensive line is doing, what my tight ends, my receivers are doing, my quarterbacks, my running back, everybody. But I also got to know what everybody's doing on the defense. And that's why those guys make the big bucks, the Peyton Mannings, the Aaron Rodgers, the Brett Favre, all those guys, because you're very cerebral. You got to do it. And that's why I see that as an entrepreneur. Like, you kind of got to know the movements. You got to see things before they happen because you got to be a visionary. And that's very similar to quarterback. So that has helped me so much. And then the last thing I wanted to hit is transitioning. Having to transition to college, where I had about 18 to 20 offers to be a quarterback. But I told Texas A&M, give me a chance to be a receiver. Give me number 5 and let me play receiver, and I'll come to A&M. And Coach Slocum gave me that opportunity, and I transitioned to wide receiver. So that there's a lot of just wisdom in that I'm even thinking about as I talk about it.
Terrence, why, and I don't know that it's a step back, right, playing a receiver versus playing a quarterback, but like, what was it about Texas A&M that you were willing to give up that, that kind of that star role on the team or whatever as the quarterback to play receiver and go to Texas A&M? Why?
Well, I just was at a point where I had been carrying the weight of a team pretty much my whole life, to be truthfully honest. And for the first time, I said, let me go to a university. A&M's consistently been a top 15 program, probably 20, 30 years. We've always gotten right to like number 5 or 6 or 10, and then we F up something, and then we get pushed back into top 15. But either way, so I was like, let me go to a school that's got the guys, got the system, has the history, and let me just kind of get in and just be a part of something versus having to carry it all on my back. But yeah, that was kind of the thought process. And then for me, I'm a visionary, right? I saw myself in the NFL. I'm 6'2". I was, fast. I could jump. I had a 44-inch vertical, ran a 4.3 40. I could do those things. And I said, you know what? I think I have a better shot at being a receiver in the NFL. And I always wanted to play receiver. So it was just one of those things. It was a dream that I wanted to chase.
Bob, that sounds like a big vertical. You're the basketball guy we got. I mean, that sounds like a pretty big jump there.
I'm going to assume you could do some pretty nasty dunks on the basketball court, huh? You just pick up some intramural basketball. Did you play some of that while you were at Texas A&M?
Yeah, I ended up having the highest vertical in the history of all varsity sports at Texas A&M. So that's track, basketball, high jump. They would have all the athletes vertical up there. And so, 44, and that was flat-footed, no step. Now these kids are running and jumping. It's like, that's not a real vertical, man. You got to go flat foot and go vertical.
There you go. I love it. Old school, right? You got to do it that way. All right. Yeah. Now, Terrence, did I also see in college, I mean, you were a star, not only the vertical, you were one of the top yards received ever at Texas A&M. I don't know if that still stands for them, but you were a record-setting wide receiver for the school.
Yeah. I was blessed to have a good career, man. One of the things I'm proud of, though, also is I was 3-time academic all-conference. So not just first, I was 2-time first team athletically, but academically, I actually made first team more. So I take pride in that. But yeah, I left with 20, 30 records and win the first 2 rounds of the draft. And it was a good career, man.
All right, hang on, Bob, because that sets up the question I wanted to ask Terrence right there. Terrence, here you are on college, and all of our members listening to this, either they've gone to college, they've experienced college, maybe they didn't. I didn't do too much of it, but we understand. And you're one of the stars at the college. How do you keep your ego in check? Walking around on a campus at that age in life where we are all like, yep, it's me. And you're one of the stars and everybody on campus can't walk past you without knowing who you are. How do you keep the ego in check, and how has that followed you all these years later?
One, I'm glad we didn't have social media back then. Golly. I was getting bombarded and we didn't even have social media. But yeah, I would say, man, just growing up humble beginnings. I grew up in the country, just working hard. And, I got to a place going into my senior year, I had no D1 offers. But I kept believing that I was a D1 recruit, and I knew I was. I just wasn't getting that breakthrough. And so when you have to work for something and you just grind it out and there's not a lot of glitz and glamour that comes along. Like I came in as a 2-star recruit and I was on the 8th team when camp started. 8th. I didn't even know there was an 8th team. And then by the end of camp, I finished on 2nd team. And in the first game at Kyle Field in front of 90,000 people, I went out and caught the game-winning touchdown, right? Ooh. And so it kind of you just kind of keep building. So that's what kept me humble. And I have faith in God, and that knowing what He did and what I did and our faith and my work ethic put together is what got me to where I was trying to go. And that kind of kept me centered for sure. And then my mom kept me centered too.
Moms always do a good job of that.
I was going to say, Chad, and it's maybe a natural kind of addition to your question. Terrence, look, a 44-inch vertical, by the way, is ridiculous. But there's lots of guys that come into college that are talented, gifted, have all the God-given abilities that don't make it through college to the NFL. So what was it, that work ethic? Was it your mom saying, hey, don't get a big head? Like, what was it that allowed you to get there and just double down? I mean, because you had to work hard. You had all the talents, right? But there's lots of guys that come in that have all the talents. How did you kind of capitalize on those talents?
Man, to be truthfully honest, I'm not even sure I've ever communicated this, but my mom and dad got divorced when I was 8 or 9, and I never really saw him. And my siblings had they had a different dad, so he would come get them. You kind of feel abandoned. You feel kind of left out. And I've always had this mentality, like, I'm not just going to sit around. Like, I had packed my bags so many times just to sit at the doorstop and be left there for the weekend, right?
Me too, man. Me too, by the way. My parents divorced at 8. My dad was the same way.
Yeah, and that's crazy, bro. At some point, you create a mentality to cope with that, right? Some people fold, some people go to drugs, some people whatever. For me, it was I'm finna double down and just, forget my language, just grind, just effing grind. And so when I got to A&M, I've always felt like I'm the underdog, and I'm okay with it. I love it. And people always overlook me. And then when it's all said and done, they have to respect me. So I'm real big on, at the end of the day, don't give me anything. I'm going to work for it, but you're going to respect me when it's all done. So when I got to A&M, I had that mentality. I literally graduated on a Saturday, bro. I had my stuff packed on Sunday. On Monday, I was on the road to A&M, and I didn't even have a place to stay. I just knew a dude and I said, hey, can I sleep on your couch? Now, take it that I just signed with Texas A&M on a football scholarship, and I don't even have a place to stay. And I sleep on this dude's couch. And I was like, what do I got to do? He said, just help me with the groceries. And I start working out with the team. That's just my mentality, man. Like, I don't mind grinding. And I'll be the first to put on my boots and put the work in, bro. And so that's the mentality that I carry. And I think that's why, I always believe I can outwork anybody.
Awesome. And that's probably taken you very, very far in the world of entrepreneur. And we're going to keep talking about these lessons, yet I just got to ask you, if you're a football fan, you remember the draft you were in. And that's because we all watched Aaron fall, right? From could have been the number 1 draft pick way down and way down. I mean, what an experience that was. And I'm not here to talk about Aaron Rodgers and what's happened. I'm here to hear about you. I mean, what was that experience like that very few people truly get, to be drafted to the NFL? And what was that feeling, and what were the emotions that come with achieving? You got to be the best of the best of the best to be drafted, especially early in the draft.
Yeah, people don't understand how hard it is to get a football scholarship, and how even harder it is to start in college, and how even harder it is to stay healthy, and then even harder to make it to the NFL draft. And then the last, just getting your name called. There's so many people trying to accomplish that. And if you're a young male in America, at some point you considered football as an ideal in your mind, even if you never played. You're like, well, what if I could, And so it's just one of those deals. But it was a dream come true. Since I was 5 years old, I told everybody that would listen I was going to go to the NFL. Literally, never wavered. And so people always told me, they try to talk me out of it. It's not going to happen. People don't do that from where we're from. And yes, I was the first and only to do it, but I never wavered in saying I was going to accomplish it. And that's just kind of how I attack everything.
Interesting. Okay, so now you get into the NFL, and sorry for bringing it up. Not that I'm going to be the first one to ever bring it up, right? But tell our audience what happened, because life changed for you very, very quickly in the NFL.
Yeah, so I get drafted. I'm there with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and me and A-Rod are roommates. I'm killing it at practice. I'm lighting it up. First 5 games in, I'm number 2 in kickoff return average behind Steve Smith, which is now going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, people around you end up in the Hall of Fame, so we should take note of that.
A lot of people around me are going into the Hall of Fame. That's probably the hardest pill to swallow. Not even the injury, is just the fact that how much potential and the things that I went through to get to that point. So for me to get injured, it wasn't like I was out with DUIs and beating on people or whatever the heck the people are getting kicked out of pro sports for. Man, I was just trying to pick up a football and help a teammate who fumbled it and just had a head-to-head injury, got temporarily paralyzed, and just had to rebuild myself, man. I had neck surgeries, had to kind of get back to learning how to do these things that I do normal, and just start over, bro. And, man, I went through deep depression. Everybody that was on the bandwagon, because at that time, I was the face of Texas A&M football, man. Like, it was me, Reggie McNeil at A&M, and it was Cedric Benson, Vincent Young, and Derek Johnson at Texas. And so we kind of ran the state. And people started jumping off the bandwagon, man. But it gave me an opportunity to realize who was real. And then I just had to rebuild myself mentally, spiritually, and physically, bro, and transition into the monster I am today.
So that ended your football career, Terrence?
Yep.
5 games into your rookie season, you get in you go to pick a fumble up and head to head with a linebacker or a safety or somebody coming in. Yep. And you're paralyzed. You can't. It's
horrible, Bob. If you haven't seen the footage, and forgive me, Terrence, it's horrible to watch the footage of it.
Yeah,
Terrence, at what point are you thinking like, man, what are you thinking as you're laying there? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was coherent. I didn't go out. So one of my teammates.
Are you thinking like, I'm okay? Are you thinking, Jesus, I can't walk anymore?
I knew. Yeah, so one of my teammates came up, because anybody that knows me, they knows like, you can go to Texas A&M, and like I said, I'm 6'2". It's not like I'm a 6'6", 290-pound monster, right? But I ran when I'm in the locker room, everybody respected me. There has never been anybody that's ever disrespected me, because I'm telling you, I'm an animal. But even on the field, I don't lay down. Like, if I get hit, I get up no matter what, bro. I've stumbled off and didn't even know what direction I was going. I stumbled off, I bit through my tongue. The list goes on. So for me to be laying there, people were like, so my teammate came up and he was like, hey, Murph, get up. And when he went to grab my jersey like that, I was like, let me go. I knew. I didn't know I was that injured, but I knew something wasn't right. But when they rolled me over on my back and said, hey, man, move your hands, move your toes, I'm like, I am moving them. They're like, you're not. And that's when I knew. So that's just life, man. You learn from it. I'm just grateful to God that I'm not stuck in that, physical condition. I still have some neck issues that I deal with, but I can dunk a basketball, hit a golf ball. I can get under 225 right now and probably do it 20 times. So I still got all my basic things that I can do with my kids, and that's all that really mattered to me. But yeah, that's what ended my career, bro, and made me, decide how to transition.
So give us the lessons, right? Give us the lessons that come from someone who's high school star, college star, gets drafted into the NFL, and then all of a sudden it's taken away from you. It's not that you even did anything, right? It was taken from you. You said you went into a deep depression, all that. You're a highly successful entrepreneur now. And I love, some of the stuff we're going to still get to talking about with you. What are the lessons you took from that have helped you truly become who you are today?
One, I'm fearless. I have no fear. I was already fearless. Some of the things I had seen growing up as a kid and some of the things that I just went through growing up, I was fearless, but I'm even more now. Like, I have no fear of anything, because I know at the end of the day, if it's in God's hands, what's going to happen is going to happen. Like, a lot of times people are like, oh man, what did you do for that to happen? I didn't do anything, man. Like, I worked hard. I wasn't, I never drank a drop in college. I never smoked weed. Still to this day, haven't. And I'm not judging anybody that does, but those are the things that get guys kicked out of the NFL.
Right.
And so when you look at my track record on why I should have still been playing, it was all lined out, right? But that's life, right? But what I learned from it is, one, I'm fearless. Two, never take anything for granted. Never, anything. Your marriage, your time with your kids, your business, your success. Every day that I wake up, I slap my feet on the floor. And I say, thank you, God, that I can use my feet. I wiggle my fingers. Thank you, God, I can use, because I know what it feels like to not be able to do that. And so I just don't take it for granted. And then the last thing I learned is life happens fast. And if you want something, you got to go get it like now. Don't wait. And so now I'm just at a place where I'm just living, I'm going after stuff, and I'm not waiting to say, well, when I get 50, I'm gonna buy that property on the beach. Like, figure out a way to do it now.
Hey, wait a minute.
You
Wait
know?
a minute. Hold on. Are we taking shots at the almost 50-year-old here? Is that what we're getting
Oh
at?
no, man!
Is that what we're getting at there? Hang on a second. All right, audience. So you're hearing it, right? Fearless. Now, some people aren't fearless, but learning to be fearless, being grateful for what you've got, and then moving fast, because life comes at you fast. Life's going to happen fast. We all say it in the blink of our eyes. Our kids are grown, they're off, they're driving, or we're all of a sudden a certain age. Life happens fast. Take those opportunities fast, or make those opportunities happen in a fast way. For those of you out there listening,
Here, Chad, Terrence, can we go? I want to go back to you being an entrepreneur as a young child, right? Where did that come from? Was that out of necessity? Was that like, how does a 8, 10, however old you were when you were trading baseball cards or mowing the lawns? Like, where does that come from?
It's one of those things. I didn't really understand that I was different. My mom would tell me, but I didn't get it. Now my mom, has passed in 2018. But now that I have kids, I'm starting to see like, okay, this is why she treated me this way, because she saw this in me. Like, because you can see it in your kids. It's obvious. Right. None of my kids are better than the other, but I see different gifts in them, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I want to really push them towards their gifting and help them be successful in life and whatever that is. So I think for me, I just have always been creative, and I've always wanted to control my own destiny. And we were on free lunch, and I got tired of showing up to lunch, only being able to eat this. It was like, well, I want to eat what the other kids are eating. They're buying shit. I want to buy it. Mm-hmm. And so that really kind of started the motivation just to be able to have the freedom to do what I want to do and not be, waiting around on free lunch and stupid stuff like that. So I'm just real big on taking control of my own destiny. And then I didn't want to bother my mom asking her for money, man. Like, I knew that she was struggling, and I wanted to kind of create, like I said, I've always just been that lone wolf from like, I'll just take it and run with it. And so the trading card business, the video game business, and lawnmower business was just a way for me to kind of manage my own destiny, and didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. I just knew I was getting after it, and I knew what I was doing wasn't illegal. That was the most important part.
That's an important thing to do. Here at Win, Make, Give, one of the things we talk about is wealth, right? Wealth, health, leadership, and legacy. What was your belief about money as a young kid growing up in that situation? And now, through all the experiences you've had, what are you teaching your kids about money differently than you were learning as you were growing up?
Yeah, I'll tell you the principle that I teach them now, and then I'll tell you my mindset. I'll reverse it. So the principle I'll teach them now is money is just a magnifying glass, literally. All money does is magnify who you already are. If you're an asshole without money, you'll be an asshole with money. If you are a giver without money, you'll be a giver with money. If you take money and help a lot of people when you didn't have it, when you get it, you'll keep doing it, right? And so all it is a magnifying glass. It's not anything other than that, right? We're just stewards of it while we are here, and then we pass it on to somebody else. And so that's the mentality that I try to get them to understand is money's not a negative thing. It's okay to want to make money. Just don't let it control you. But for me growing up, it was, well, the rich people only do this and the rich people only do that. It's like, well, man, it's easy to say that when you're not rich, right? When you're struggling. And so it's like, no, I want to know what that feels like to be able to control my own destiny with my finances. So when I retired, I took financial literacy so seriously. I read 40 books in 16 months. And I wasn't even a big reader at the time, but I really wanted to understand this game called money. And I had a little bit of money saved up from getting drafted. I didn't have retirement money. It was just a rookie contract, but it gave me a start on life. And I said, okay, how can I take this and learn to invest it myself? And that's what started my journey as a real estate entrepreneur.
Do you we don't get taught this stuff, right? And I think the NFL, the NBA, there's a lot of really great examples of guys that have made tons of money but got no financial literacy through that process. Terrence, like what drove you to read 60 books about money? Like, you just didn't want to give up what you had, or like what was that mindset there that said I have to get financially literate?
Bob, I think you hit it earlier, bro. Like I'm telling you, I didn't realize I was different until now. I've obviously done personality profiles. I've met other entrepreneurs all over the world like myself. And I realized like there's like less than 1 or 2% of like the personalities that are out there that they just are self-starters. They figure out ways to succeed in no matter what category they're in. And so what I've really started doing now is I try to study those people, because like when I look at the way that Warren Buffett has done it this way, or that Ben Kinney has done it this way, or like I see so many similarities in my mentality and my mindset. But then I just take it. I'm a chameleon. I take these bits and pieces and make it my own. And that's really the secret of my success. But yeah, it's just a mentality, bro. And honestly, I can't attribute it to anything other than it's just the way I'm wired.
Okay, so you're wired a certain way, but I'm going to put you on the spot because not everybody in our audience is wired that same way. Yep. Right? That's what makes people like you, people we want to have on the show. That's what makes people want to listen to Win, Make, Give, because they're hearing from Ben Kinney, or they're hearing from us with Ben's message that we're bringing to them. They want to absorb that stuff. So Terrence, not everybody is in that 1 or 2% that's out there, even though we all want to be that 1 or 2%er. Mm-hmm. But what's the lesson that you can teach everybody that's listening right now so they can get closer to being one of those 1 or 2%ers and acting more like that extremely high level entrepreneur?
What I would say is, whether you're wired that way, like what's your big why, right? Because like Bob said earlier, there's a lot of great athletes that can run and jump and do, but they didn't go D1 because they were not willing to sacrifice and make those adjustments. I think at the end of the day, people have a choice. And they got to decide. They got to look in the mirror and say, who am I really? Like literally, that's like one of my things that I live by is like, it's on my wristband. Like, who am I? It's something that I talk to the kids about at the camp. Like, who are you really, right? Who do you want to be and why? Because if you want to do something bad enough, you'll figure it out, right? And so I think that's the issue that we have in our country right now and in the world, is we want to look at people that are successful and we judge their success. Or we say, I want to do what Terrence has done or what Bob has done or what Ben has done, but they're not willing to do the things that we had to do to get there. And so the question I would ask anybody listening to the podcast is, what are you willing to give up? What sacrifice? What commitment are you willing to make? And then how consistently are you willing to do it? Because I always say SSC, right? This is like a basic little thing I train my agents on. What's your system, your strategy, and how consistently are you going to do it? Because I don't care what it is. It could be learning how to grow corn.
Tomatoes.
There you go. We both said an agricultural thing, right? So it's like, but if you do it, if you create a system systematically behind your strategy and you do it consistently, you're going to see some results. It may not be the greatest results, but some tomatoes will start popping up in your field. And then you just keep sharpening the iron on how do I do that better? And then you look for people that are doing what you're doing and you take what they're doing, you pay them and they coach you, or you learn from afar and you just make it your own. So I don't really think success, to me, it's just about being successful no matter the field. I don't really think success is that complicated. I really don't.
Okay,
hold on. The system, and Terrence, you and I know each other because we have a system in our world that you like or that you spotted and you said, hey, that seems to be working for those guys. And we call that R&D, right? You ripped it off and duplicated it. You're like, hey, will you guys share that with me? And Ben was like, yeah, we'll share it with. So a system, but that last piece right there, consistency, that is really the secret to success. How do you find consistency like in your daily life? Do you have routines that you do, Terrence? Like, how does consistency show up in your world?
Yeah, time blocking. I learned at an early age. So I was working multiple jobs, flipping burgers at Dairy Queen, stacking groceries at Albertsons. I had my own entrepreneurial business while going to school and doing football camps, and the list goes on. So I've just been very systematic, and I feel like, you know, there's a couple of ways. One, time blocking is very important. And I get this quote from Adam Hergenrother, right? He says, agents get into the industry of real estate before the freedom, but it's the freedom of real estate that kills them and pretty much gets them out of the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same for entrepreneurship. Everybody wants to quit their job and go start their own business, but then they sleep in till 12 o'clock. It's like, it's not going to work. Like you're not going to be successful. And I think we got to stop lying to each other and just shoot each other straight and say, if you want this, there's going to be sacrifice. Because anytime you create a system, that's sacrifice. Just learning it, building it, putting the processes, and then what's the strategy behind it? Well, if you don't know what the hell you're trying to achieve, then how do you create a strategy? And then now, how consistently are you going to do it? Because you're going to do it and you're not going to get results immediately. But is your why big enough to keep drawing you in, to keep doing it over and over and over? And that was now to kind of go back, that was the reason I got up every day and ran my sprints and did my workouts and did all those things. Because what I was trying to achieve was to go D1 in college football, right? And now go D1 and go to the NFL. That's what was my big why. That was what was drawing me in. And that's what people got to realize. What is their big why?
Okay. So you get injured. What out of that, what has been your big why for kind of your entrepreneurial career?
Man, there's a lot of them. I will tell you originally, my biggest prayer was just, God, give me something I can be passionate about. I literally didn't even care about success at one point in my life. I just wanted to get out of the bed and not be depressed. Literally.
Like sometimes that's where it starts.
Yeah. Like right. I just didn't want to wake up and roll over and say, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Like it is a deep black hole. And I just said, okay, God, just give me something that I genuinely enjoy pursuing just so I can get out of the bed. So it started there, right? But then once he showed me real estate, then I'm like, okay, how do I become the best at this? And not the best where I'm competing against other people. I wanted to be the best version of myself in that space.
That's awesome. Folks, and remember, two things that Terrence talked about in there. We hear that term big why, and I got to tell you, I see so many people that are paralyzed by that because they're like, I don't have one. I can't figure what mine out is. It doesn't have to be Terrence knew early on that it was to go D1, and then quickly as to D1, it was to go to the end. It's okay if your big why is only going to power you for the next 3 months.
Yep.
Right? Just like Terrence, okay, he had to change it. And then you can be sure he found something and then changed it. So don't sit here and say, I got to solve my whole life today with this big why. Figure out that big why that's going to take you 3 to 6 months from now. You can always reevaluate.
Well, maybe we need to change the wording. Big why does give me this, like, I got to figure this out for the long haul, right? Maybe it's just like my next
current
why
purpose.
Or something. Yeah,
it's your CP, your current purpose, right?
Okay.
Just focus on that. Keep it easy. And then for other people to take what Terrence was saying about time blocking, folks, remember this, you do get the freedom, right? But you get the freedom to build your own calendar is what I always tell people. But then your calendar truly becomes your boss. Because when your calendar says work out, even if you woke up one day stiff, Terrence, I got to bet you were still in the gym. Even if the calendar told you it's time to be at this session, you were there doing it because you get that opportunity. So I heard you mention, though, in there a camp. I heard it come up once or twice. I want to hear about this camp. I did some quick Googling while you were talking about it. I saw something that says football, finance, and faith. So is this a kids camp that you put together?
Yeah, man. So it was an idea I got from God and just praying about it. I want to give back. And originally I was just going to do what most NFL guys do. You get drafted. Everybody knows you. You go home. You're the hero of your hometown. And you sign autographs. You pat a couple kids on the head and you say, good luck with your life, right? And I'm not saying that's a negative, right? Go for it. But I just felt like there was more, man. And as I started kind of going on this journey of, yeah, you can make it to the NFL, but what's the likelihood of this? If we got 500 kids standing here, the likelihood of you guys going is maybe one of y'all, right? So what about the other 499 kids? Maybe. What about the other 499 kids? So that's where I wanted to talk about football, which is great. That's what draws people in. But the financial literacy piece. So we did a financial literacy, kind of breakout sessions for the parents and for the kids at the camp at any ages. And then we did the faith piece where we had a worship concert and gave people an opportunity to give their lives to the Lord, man. So it was just kind of a complete camp. And it was all just love, man. Like if you look at the videos on my Instagram, man, the different ethnicities, backgrounds, we didn't tell the young ladies they couldn't participate at the camp. We had girls out there running routes and making guys look bad. Cool, go with it, man. It's just all about love and just having fun, man. And it was a great camp. So that's really the vision behind Terrence Murphy Camp.
Okay, so before I have you talk to our kids that are listening and give me one takeaway from the camp, they couldn't make it, but let's share one thing, even though you've already shared so much. Here at Win, Make, Give in season 2, Bob, we've decided to live up to that give part of Win, Make, Give, and we're making donations to charities on behalf of Win, Make, Give through all the season. Terrence, can we choose your camp as a place to make our donation for you, or is there another charity you'd like us to select?
Man, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it's the Terrence Murphy Camp, Football, Finance, and Faith. It's obviously a 503c, so it's tax deductible. But yeah, I mean, would love for you guys to be a part of it. We're doing it next year, 2022 of spring. And we're already planning, and already this year we'll probably cap it at 1,500 people. We capped it at 5 this year, so we'll try to 3x this thing. But yeah, we're excited.
That's awesome. We look forward to giving. We'll make that our charity for this one, because obviously it's right back to you. Give our kids listening, because right now someone's stuck in the car with mom and dad while they're listening to the podcast. So kids, pay attention. Tell the kids out there something that came from that camp that they should all learn right now.
That's great. Well, the first thing that I would say they would have learned is sports is just a vehicle. It's not who you are. Sports is a vehicle. And I think a lot of times as young kids, we put our identities into these things. And then when they're removed from our life, we don't know who we are. And so use sports as a vehicle to get where you're trying to go, whether it's getting a scholarship. And I always say sports is great for kids because it teaches them camaraderie. It teaches them how to get through trials and tribulations. It teaches them hard work. It gets them out and moving around and sweating and getting rid of bad endorphins, and the list goes on. So just use it as a vehicle. But no matter what, even if you have an amazing career, even when Aaron Rodgers retires, he's going to be 38, 39, 40 years old. He might play longer. But you're still a 30, 40-year-old young person in the world, and that's a young person in just like the real estate or professional atmosphere.
Love
so
it.
Just use it as leverage, man. Just leverage it and don't let it be your identity. Just let it be a part of your story.
All right, Bob, as we get near the end of this, what do you got for Terrence still?
So I guess the last question I would have, Terrence, as kind of a parting thought here, or maybe would be, how have you just continued to find drive when you've been successful? We get to this, like, people get to this certain point where we get comfortable, right? And I'm assuming you have a fairly comfortable life, right? And if you decided today to stop pushing, you'd probably be fine. How do you keep pushing, or like kind of as you have a big business, a big life, you've got a lot of people that you support, a lot of things that you do. How do you continue to find the motivation to just keep going?
Yeah, it used to be about what my vision was, right? Now it's about my team. Like, we have over 200, 300 people working for us between the 20 companies. And I think it's not like one of the things that it's not just growing to grow, it's growing with a purpose.
Okay.
And so for us, how can I bring people along on the journey? Because I still remember I got drafted 22. I bought a house, 3-story place, basement. Never even knew what a basement was till I got to Green Bay. We don't have basements in Texas. And I'm coming home every night to a 3-story home by myself at 22 years old. And it was miserable. And I remember saying, like, I finally got to the pinnacle of my career, and this is it. And so I've learned that you want to bring people along on the journey with you. So when you get to your summit, and I want people to be a part of that. So my big why is, how can I keep inspiring people to be the best versions of themselves? And how can I inspire them enough to want to stay on this journey with me to keep achieving the things that we want to achieve as a team? So I really want to get their buy-in.
That's
for
awesome.
The people that matter.
So that we can go to the summit and have a party, not just stand up there by ourselves looking out and like, where's everybody at? This is no fun up here. Yeah, this is lonely up here.
That is awesome. Terrence, our audience wants to connect with you more. They want to know more about you. They want to follow you. They want to hear from you. They want to be able to donate to how do they connect with you after this podcast episode?
Yeah, so my website, it's like terrencemurphy.com. It's just TerrenceMurphy. Instagram is another way. I'm trying to be a little more active on social media. I'm not on TikTok and Snapchat. I'm not doing any of that. But I'm on Instagram, so it's just Terrence Realtor. Once again, Terrence, TerrenceE, Realtor. Find me there on Instagram, or you can check out my new podcast that I just dropped. It's only a couple months old, and it's Real Estate Entrepreneur with Terrence Murphy.
Love
Perfect.
It.
Love it. Folks, check out Terrence. Go back and just start this one over again. There are so many lessons through this that I know I wasn't anticipating.
I'm chuckling. Terrence, you're like, you have the Gen X social media, like Chad and I. You're like Instagram, Facebook. We're like Snapchat. What is that? That's for the millennials, right?
Yeah. No,
forget that Snapchat, that TikTok, all that stuff. I'm not doing some of those silly things.
Done.
It's silly enough what we do.
I'm done, man. I'm tapped out. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's it. I'm done.
It is. There
you go. You're even doing better than Bob by having half of those things he doesn't even have. Terrence, we really appreciate you joining us here at Win Make Give. Bob, always wonderful to have you there asking some questions that come out of left field for us. And you, our audience, we appreciate you each and every time. We hope you'll take this episode and share it with somebody, because we know Terrence has lessons that matter for everyone. And until our next episode, remember, do good.